Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Buddy's Bug Hunt, released in 1935. It's the 106th in the series, and it's directed by Jack King. As you'll see throughout this review, the only decent-ish kind of copy that I could find is one with a time code on it, so sorry guys, this is the best I could do. Hopefully it'll get restored at some point because I believe all of them should be restored, even if they're mediocre like this one. So in case you haven't seen this one, here's what happens. So Buddy seems to be very passionate this time round in collecting bugs. So in his bug clubhouse of sorts, he encounters a spider. When once Buddy accidentally breathes in some ether, the spider frees the other bugs and frogs and such, and that all leads to a court case against Buddy for not being nice to the bugs. So this is yet another very weird short directed by Jack King, who, as his surname is, I guess the king of weird cartoons around this time, and we'll go through why that is in just a moment. So we're going to go through the short from start to finish. I know this is not the most exciting short, but there are some points of interest in this one, which goes to show that even in some shorts like this one, which is very obscure, you can at least find some decent things here and there. Although I don't think this will be on anyone's must-watch list anytime soon. But before we go through the short from start to finish, I'll just let you guys know of the voice actors as per Keith Scott's wonderful Cartoon Voices book, which is a must-have in any serious animation fan's library. But you've got Buddy, voiced by Jackie Morrow, and you've got Bernice Hansel, who does all the women incidentals in this one, like a few of the women bugs that you see, including a butterfly. And Billy Bletcher does all of the other voices of the bugs, like the spider laughing and the judge and so on. But apparently this is the first Warner Brothers cartoon to feature Acme products. You see that later on, and I'll point it out when we get to it. And I really don't recall anything earlier than this. So there you go. At least there's something that's interesting in this one, right? But let's take a look at this cartoon from start to finish. And once again, I apologize for the quality of the print being used. This is like a 5th generation VHS of some sort of a 16mm or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, sorry guys, this was the best I could do. So the cartoon starts off with Buddy with a butterfly net. He's catching a butterfly. And sure enough, Buddy doesn't pay attention to his surroundings because he goes over a ladder and over a cow's head and a farmer's head, and they're all just looking on with disbelief. I don't know. When you watch this short, you'll begin to notice that Jack King doesn't seem inspired. He did a few shorts that were at least interesting for Buddy's, like Buddy's Bear Cats and Buddy's Detective Story and that. But as he goes along, his shorts just become more and more dull. It's as though he had this initial spark that just faded fairly quickly. So Buddy runs past a sign saying, "Be sure to see Seaside Beach," and someone must have re-erected that sign. But anyway, so you got the butterfly, Buddy tries to catch it, and a woman pops up that just happens to have the same swimsuit that has this particular sign. It's a weird gag. I do like the shocked look of Buddy, though, once he realizes what he's done, but you just sort of shrug and go, okay, whatever. So after being disappointed at first, he notices the butterfly again, and this time gets the butterfly into his bug house. But you have to wonder, why did he need to even have a sign? Whatever, I don't care. It's just really strange to me, and at least here it's nice and convenient for the purposes of the story. But the sign falls down, which makes you think, did they really think this far ahead? Because this does actually set up a gag at the very end, where the whole shack falls down. Spoiler alert, but we'll get to that, of course. But yeah, I do wonder, did they actually did this to foreshadow what happens later on? Or were they just going, whatever, just make the sign fall down and hopefully people will laugh? Who knows? So we're inside this bug house, which seems to be a lot bigger than what the front suggests it to be, but that's okay. At this point in time, scale was not Warner Brothers' strong suit, but anyway. So he's looking for the butterfly, and he finally sees it on top of the flower. He grabs the flower and just squeezes out this butterfly into a jar, and you think, well, he could have squished it, but anyway. Again, you just sort of shrug it, where he then gets a bag of butterflies and puts them in another glass container, and he's just walking on. This sort of stuff, it's not particularly exciting, is it? But I do like the look of this spider, so Buddy is excited to see a spider, and sure enough, the spider looks pretty happy, but he won't be happy for long. So Buddy takes the spider over to a microscope, he puts the glue down and sticks the spider on, and the spider is yelling, "Help, help!" Which means Buddy's quite cruel to his bugs, I'm sure, and that certainly foreshadows what happens later on. But if you notice the glue, below it, there's a can of ether, and you will see a dream sequence in just a moment, but just wanted to point out that this is what's known as diethyl ether, and it's normally used as a solvent, and that's, I think, what he was trying to use it for there. But the fumes can be quite strong, and the effects of intoxication, it's somewhat similar to alcohol intoxication, but it's a lot more potent, and there are even places today where there are people that are just addicted to ether use. It's not as big as it was back in the day where it was seen as a suitable alcohol replacement, but it still exists. But if you want to see a much funnier thing when it comes to the usage of ether, watch the short Water Every Hair, which I would rather be watching instead of this one, but if you want a good idea of what ether is, well, that cartoon does it much more funnily than here. So we see some cell warping, showing that Buddy's getting all dizzy and he falls to the ground. So the spider manages to get out of the glue and he notices that Buddy's already sleeping, and that shot looks like a painted background as opposed to a cell, which is kind of an interesting choice, but okay, sure. And we hear the spider laugh, which was done by Billy Bletcher, and he climbs down the table. And then the spider climbs up another table and he frees a group of flies from inside a jar. Are they flies or are they spiders? These designs are very weird, okay, but this sure just shows a theme of scale, and I think Jack King liked to do this sort of stuff because if you look at, say, Buddy's Lost World, where you see dinosaurs showing off this massive scale, or if you see some weird shots like in Buddy's Bearcats, so I think Jack King wanted to explore this sort of stuff, but still doesn't make it a great short, but that's what I think he's going for here. And the spider then takes a cork out of a bottle with a frog inside. I wonder if Buddy knows that frogs aren't exactly bugs, but anyway. And why is the frog in a small jar? I'm actually sympathizing with the bugs here and not Buddy, and I'm pretty sure that's not what they intended here, but anyway. We briefly see in a jar in the background for Pierce's powder for pesky pests. I couldn't find a reference to it if it's referring to a real product, but I wonder if Pierce is a reference to Ted Pierce, who did join the studio around this time. But if you know of a similar reference to such a product, definitely let me know. And all these scenes are kind of weird, aren't they? Where he got the spider speaking gibberish to all the insects, and then he's setting the frog free, and it's really, really bizarre. But then we see, in an even more bizarre moment, Buddy is actually trapped by a spider web created by the group of spiders. So, okay. And another spider drops down a small box reading, "Reducing pills." I wonder if that's referencing to diet pills, because I couldn't really find anything else in relation to reducing pills. If you know more about that sort of stuff, definitely let me know in the comments. So here is where we see the alleged first appearance of Acme in the background too. So there you are. If you want to know where Acme comes from, it's from this rather mediocre Buddy shorts. And so they put a funnel in Buddy's mouth and the frog uses its mouth to pump some water into it. This is very, very bizarre, but anyway. And Buddy now shrinks to a very small size, and Buddy's trapped on the spider web and he tries to get out, but no, the bugs are now going to swear their revenge towards Buddy. And we hear a song, and I double checked, and this song appears to be an original by composer by Norman Spencer, and it's probably the highlight of this rather dull short, I would say.
You have tormented us up till now. We're going to have our revenge now.
The trial is going to be a while, but you're at the mercy now.
Bomba, 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 you'll get yours today.
And we see a few incidental bugs, including a ladybird dressed up like a ladybird. Kind of weird, but anyway, the laughs appear to be from Bernice Hansel, who, as I mentioned before, does one of the voices in this short. And the frog now sings about how Buddy will be in trouble and for what he's done to the insects and so on. Now, you want to see a better short that takes the same idea that was actually released in the same year? Pluto's Judgment Day. It's the exact same plot, where Pluto is chasing after cats and he's berated by Mickey to stop doing that and so on, and he ends up having a nightmare where a cat lures him to some sort of a hellish court, and the cats then judge him on the way he treated cats. Way better than this one. Trust me, folks, if you get a chance to see it, definitely do. And yes, even though that one has a troublesome Uncle Tom sequence, it's still a far superior short than this one. So Buddy's held prisoner and he's forced to walk along by this wasp, which has my face when I'm editing these Buddy reviews, but anyway. And Buddy ends up sitting down on a damaged roller skate and he's pushed through to the opening of the courthouse. And it says Supreme Radio with the radio bit crossed out and court written in. I was looking this up and it looks like there really was a brand called Supreme Radios. But if you know more about that sort of thing, if you're an expert on old radios, definitely let me know in the comments because I really am curious, was that a full-fledged brand or was it just a type of radio at the time? Because I'm not an expert on old-time radio. And yeah, Buddy is placed into the trial and there's a group of bugs and they end up using some flypaper with some alphabet soup and it says, "Hear ye, hear ye. Buddy will be tried in court for cruelty to insects." Not sure why they have to be elaborate here, but okay, at least we know what's going on, right? So the jury is sitting down in unused egg boxes and it says Schlump's eggs, and I couldn't really find any reference to that one. So once again, guys, this is where you guys come in. Let me know if that's referencing a particular brand. Could be just a regional brand that I have no idea about. That's incredibly obscure. So we see a sheriff proclaiming the start of the trial, and we see a cuckoo clock, and the judge comes out. I do like part of that gag where the water goes from the jug into the cup, and then from the cup back into the jug again. It's not ha-ha funny, but it's a nice little touch. So the judge makes Buddy swear to tell the truth, essentially, saying, "Cross your heart, hope to die, because here you won't tell a lie," even though he just has a playing card, but anyway. And he still bangs his mallet on top of Buddy's hat, which I'm sure we've all wanted to do that at some point in watching these shorts, right? Even though he says, "Won't talk, eh?" So being very cruel, and once again, you can see similar gags in Pluto's Judgment Day. So we see the first witness, and the bug is upset at Buddy for pulling his leg, and he yanked it right off near the joint, and now they call me Peg. And he has a literal peg, which I thought was rather funny, if I'm being honest. But he goes to show you, Buddy is really cruel to his bugs. I thought he just collected them because he had an interest in fascination bugs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But does he also torture them too? Any wonder people don't like Buddy. And we now see the next witness, who's a butterfly, whose voice is Bernice Hansel, as mentioned before. And the butterfly witness is going on about something about her parents taken away from Buddy and she was left to die. Now the judge says a line, "Oh, is that so?"
Oh, is that so?
And that one line sounds different from Billy Bletcher's usual voice. So I'm wondering if that's a reference to something, which again, if you try and look that up, it's so vague that it's going to give me a million different responses as to what that line is. So if you know of a radio line or a movie line around this time where they said it in this delivery, definitely let me know. And then this one's interesting. We get the next witness, and apparently that's Bernice Hansel as well, but usually when you hear Bernice Hansel, she does that really cutesy voice that she would do for a lot of things like Sniffles and those sort of characters. But here it seems to be her normal voice. So there you go. This short does have some interesting things.
That nasty old such and such, with fiendish yells of glee, sees my husband in his clutch and a widow made of me.
And this appears to be a Black Widow spider, and that leads to pretty much nothing. Again, I like the music and the song in this part, but it's really a whole lot of nothing. So the judge reacts by saying, "For goodness sakes," which I'm sure, again, comes from some sort of a movie or radio show at the time, and he bangs on Buddy's head, and he even wipes the mallet with a cloth. I like that little bit of animation there, I'll admit. So the judge turns to the jury. "What is your decree? Do you find the prisoner guilty or do you insist him free?" And this sort of rhyming talk definitely reminds me of the very first Three Stooges short, where the entire short is just them saying things in rhyme. And I like the look of the jury here. And sure enough, the foreman of the jury considers Buddy to be guilty, which I have to agree with him. Buddy seems to be very cruel from what we've seen. And the judge says, "Okay, give him the works, or give him the worst," something like that. Sorry, the sound quality in this short is not the best. And we see something that's going to be rather brutal. if you were to try and do something like this in real life, I guess, if you have a life-size cigar lighter and all that. And we see one nice shot of the arm switching the lighter from low to full, and that's the kind of shot that Jack King did a lot more often earlier on, but seems to do less and less as his career at Warner's progresses. And Buddy cries for help, and admitted, guys, you're looking at this going, yeah, this is funny because Buddy's getting what he deserved. But anyway, I guess a lot of us enjoy watching Buddy get tortured. And sure enough, the dream turns into reality. And what a shock. It was all a dream. It burns his pants up, what wakes him up. He runs over to the wash tub and fixes himself up. So because of this dream, he decides, you know what, I'm not going to torture bugs anymore. I'm just going to release him, and that's that. And all the bugs start to leave, and the frogs start to leave as well. And Buddy slams his door shut, and what appears to be referencing what happened before with the sign falling down, now the whole shack falls down, which once again is completely out of scale to what we saw before, but you just go with it, I guess. And we end with two frogs just playing on a plank of wood, just like it's a seesaw, and we end right there, so there we are. Now, revisiting this short, this copy I've got here is slightly better to what I had last time, but honestly, even if this was restored, this is a very bland short, and Jack King, I think, was just going through the motions. I really think something happened to him where he just wasn't inspired to really do much. I know he wanted to do color cartoons, hence why later on he would go back to Disney because he was able to do so over there. But I'm trying to look for a lot of bright spots in some of these other Jack King shorts, and aside from a few gags here and there, and aside from a few wonderfully weird moments, a lot of it's just average at best. This one gets 5 out of 10. It's very forgettable, and yet, ironically, it has one of the most interesting firsts in Looney Tunes history, which is Acme. So, there you are. But that'll do for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.